is the Competition Commission's premise, is the logic that it operates according to sound, or is there a problem there? And I think we need to conclude that there is a huge problem there. We need economic growth. We need employment in South Africa. And we're not going to get that when there are economic hitmen like the Competition Commission killing any chance for that to happen.
Is South Africa's Competition Commission standing in the way of economic growth and actual competition in South Africa's markets? Well, joining me to discuss is Martin van Staden. He is a legal fellow at Sakeliga, the business group. Martin van Staden, welcome to the show.
Hey, David, thanks for having me.
So, Martin, you've written a piece for the Business Day, which we'll link to below, outlining some of the problems as you see it with the Competition Commission. What, in your view, is the role of the Competition Commission, which falls under the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, and how is it acting in the economy at the moment?
Well, its role is to promote competition in the economy, but it does no such thing. When one considers what competition means, it means that a sector or an industry or a market is contestable. It means you can enter that market and play by the same rules as other players. But the Competition Commission is in no way interested in this. It is more interested in applying political formulas, so-called dominance formulas, looking at percentages and numbers, rather than actually considering whether that market is enterable by new entrants. Because if it did that, it would find that where there is a real contestability problem, there is usually a state or legislation or a state license that prohibits someone from competing. One thinks immediately, for instance, of electricity. Everyone needs to get a license to trade in electricity, but the Department of Energy simply does not issue these licenses, especially not to coal and nuclear providers. It only has one licensee, and that's Eskom. Why has the Competition Commission not said that there is a monopoly problem here? The fact is the Competition Commission is essentially an economic hitman of the state. It only looks at what the private sector does. If it sees a company gets a little bit too big there, in its opinion, it will go after that company, but it will never go after the state. It will never go after the post office, which is trying to enforce a 1 kilogram or lower monopoly on couriering, for instance. So the role of the commission in theory is very nice to promote competition, but that's simply not the reality.
And Martin, we've also observed that the Competition Commission itself is being used to enforce and extend BEE policies. How is it doing so?
Yeah, so we're essentially, South Africa is entering what Sakeliga has been calling the second phase of BEE, and we're going away from what used to be this idea of BEE is voluntary, and only if you want to do business with the state do you need to comply with this racial engineering. That is no longer the case, and the Competition Commission is a very good example of that. At least it's been like this for a while, but under the 2018 Competition Amendment Act, its role in promoting transformation and what it does has increased. So for instance, it would look at when there is a merger between companies, it would look at what the ownership profile of the new merged entity would look like. Would there be enough representation of previously disadvantaged groups? And if the Competition Commission does not think so, then it would deny those two companies the right to merge. So it takes a racial political consideration into what is in fact a commercial economic phenomenon, and these things do not gel. When people sit around making business decisions, they don't also think about, well, how is this going to look racially? That's not how we operate. People are not inherently bigoted beings. That's how planning boards under apartheid may have operated, but that's not how ordinary South Africans operate. But now the Competition Commission is continuing that fine tradition that the apartheid government established with looking at racial formulas, asking itself, will this promote racial transformation? And if the answer that it's activists, it's dangerous to refer to them as experts, but which its activists regard as anti-transformative, it will reject those transactions going through. And we've seen this with Burger King. I think a few years ago we saw this with Walmart trying to invest in South Africa as well. So the Competition Commission with its racial engineering definitely stands in the way of foreign investment, and I'm sure in the way of domestic investment. enforcement as well.
And the commission itself plays a very overtly political role. It is an extension of the state, and the choices that it makes in terms of which cases of market dominance are pursued and investigated are expressly political choices. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say so. So South Africans have been complaining about the price of food, for instance, and that's understandable. You and I have to pay the same prices, increasing prices for food. And lo and behold, the Competition Commission said it's going to look at the fresh produce market, look at why prices are so high. The answers to that, I think, are relatively simple. The lockdown that government enforced created huge supply chain disruptions that's going to reverberate for many years to come, I would imagine. But no, the Competition Commission said we're going to look at why these filthy capitalists are charging so much for fresh produce. And of course, many people lauded this. They thought this was excellent. Finally, someone is coming to help us, to give us some relief for our wallets. There was an inquiry into, I think, medical aids, where the commission came to a very racialized conclusion about, I think, how brokers are used in that industry. So it seems like there's a great deal of opportunism going on here. You don't see the commission really looking at industries or sectors, like I mentioned previously, that are very concentrated. Energy, for instance. You don't see it doing work there. It's always going after these apparently white capitalist organizations in the private sector. So there's definitely that. But more than that, the Competition Commission, which in theory is supposed to function according to the best rules of due process, in fact violates those rules. So when it looks at an industry or a sector, for instance, and it identifies dominance there by a company or companies, it will go to those companies and say, we have now found that you dominate the market, and we're going to pursue charges under the Competition Act against you. And if you are found guilty of that in the competition tribunal, you might receive huge fines, I think something like 10% of turnover. So instead of that, let's rather settle. Which is what the Competition Commission tells these companies. And these companies don't want to be found guilty according to this very arbitrary set of rules in the Competition Act. And they settle, sometimes to the tune of hundreds of millions of rands. So what then happens is that the Competition Commission fills its coffers with all of this money that it gets from companies which it has not found guilty in front of judges of any type of violation of antitrust law or competition law. And it hops from industry to industry to extract these settlements without proof, without evidence, without a trial. So there's a big deficit in the Competition Commission as far as due process is concerned, and really, in a way, it's a kangaroo court, which all South Africans need to be very concerned about. Any state entity that operates on opportunism, on threats, and on essentially activist logic that we see around the world in the West today is dangerous. And I know South Africans are often very happy when the Competition Commission acts, but we need to think a little bit further than what it says it is doing, and really look at what is really happening behind the scenes, and really ask ourselves, is the Competition Commission's premise, is it the logic that it operates according to sound? Or is there a problem there? And I think we need to conclude that there is a huge, huge problem there. We need economic growth. We need employment in South Africa. And we're not going to get that when there are economic hitmen like the Competition Commission killing any chance for that to happen.
Martin van Staden, thank you very much. Let's hand over to you, our audience. Do you think that the Competition Commission is doing more harm than good in South Africa's economy? Leave your thoughts down in the comments section below. Also, if you enjoyed this analysis, you might want to check out this video over here, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. That's linked over here. My name is David Ansara. This is the CRA. Until next time, take care.